Well, friends, here we are. We are at the very end of our portal story. Right now, if you have gotten this far in the story, I want you to take your hand and give yourself a pat on the back because this hasn't been an easy story to write. But what I have seen you writing has been absolutely amazing. I feel proud of the writing that you've been doing, and you should feel really proud of your writing as well. This whole thing started when we were exploring plot and the whole plot of a story. So I'm going to pull this over here, back to the chart that we originally had, where we looked at where the wild things are. And we started out with Max is at home at dinner time making mischief. So that was the setting. Then we learned about the character and the problem. So this is where, when, who. The problem was he is sent to his room. And then there's the rising action, where a forest grows and he sails to the land of where the wild things are. And then we come to the critical point, the climax, where he misses being where he's loved most of all. And he leaves the wild thing and sails back home. And then he makes it home to find his supper hot and waiting for them. If you think about it, this is a lot like the story that we have actually written here, where we started out with all this stuff and he gets sucked into a portal kind of, and then at the end he needs to end up back at home. So today, as I read the story that I have written so far, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to plot the different parts of my story so we can make sure that we followed all the things that we're supposed to do. So we are at the conclusion today. We've done all of that at this point. So when we started out, let me go ahead and find the first day. When we started out, it went like this. One day my video game machine wouldn't turn on. I tried to fix it by checking the connections, and when I peeked behind my TV, there was a hole in the wall. I knew I shouldn't, but I reached into the hole and was sucked right into the magical portal. When I got to the other side, this is the incredible world I saw. Suddenly, I found myself on a mysterious island. I quickly looked behind myself, but the hole seemed to have disappeared. I decided I better get familiar with my surroundings since it looked like I wasn't going back home very soon. When I looked around, I saw a beach with crystal blue water lapping at the shores, tall palm trees, heavy with coconuts, standing high above them. Seagrasses rustled in the gentle breeze, and tropical flowers released their fragrances. The sun was shining bright in this golden, beautiful world. As I looked out in the sparkling water, I thought I saw a fin flip, and the sound of tinkling laughter rang in my ears. The island was beautiful, a comfortable, and safe feeling. It felt like the kind of place where magical things happened and goodness reigned. So, sucked into a mermaid world is the very beginning of our setting. Part 2. I was definitely curious about the laughter I heard, so I moved toward the edge of the water. As I stepped into the water, change started to come over me. I still felt like the same inquisitive, optimistic girl inside, but I noticed my legs started to tingle as scales started to appear. I quickly hopped back out of the water and they went away. Cautiously, I dipped my toe back into the water, and again, purple, green, and turquoise blue scales started forming, running up my legs and ending at my waist. I went in deeper, and as I got up to my belly button, then my shoulders, my legs fused together, and I realized I was half fish, half human girl. I had gained the ability to change into a mermaid. I couldn't believe it. I turned into Sophia, the mermaid girl. As I swam back to the beach, the same thing happened, reversed, and my legs separated as I was able to walk again. I dove into the water with excitement, opened my eyes, and found that I could see and breathe with no problem at all. I liked this new place I found myself in and couldn't wait to explore the underwater world and the beautiful island. So then we have that I am Sophia, the amphibious merhuman. Part 3, we're getting to the problem. After I realized I was amphibious and I could breathe in and out of water, I fearlessly dove in and began exploring crystal clear water. I was in a large cove. The land curling around the water made the water calm and warm with an opening that led out to the ocean. I swam down under the water, and looking in the kelp beds, I saw the flipping of fins that looked a lot like mine. Sorry. I decided, as I swam closer and closer to the kelp, I noticed it wasn't all seaweed. Some of what I thought was kelp was actually hair attached to the real mermaids. I decided to swim even closer, slowly, to get a better look, and several mermaids and mermen darted away. While I didn't want to scare them, I also wanted them to understand I was friendly, so I stopped and floated for a moment. I waved and smiled and noticed that while many of them had swum away, a few stayed close, curiously looking at me. One girl even swam a little closer to me. She looked back at the others as if asking them to stay close, then bravely came toward me. I smiled again and she returned my smile. I decided to try speaking and said hello, but it all came out like bubbles and squeaks. She pointed to the surface of the water, so we both swam up until our faces broke through, and she burst into laughter as soon as she took a breath of air. "Who are you?" she asked. "Where are you from? We have never seen you before." I told her my name was Sophia and all about how I had arrived and what happened when I went to the water. As I told her about my experience, her face changed from curious to excited. "Do you mean to tell me you can walk on the island as well as swim in the water like us?" I nodded. Other merfolk were coming to the surface as well, one by one, and quite a group of them were listening to our conversation. She swam over to them and they huddled up together. All I could hear were murmurs of excitement. She swam back to me. "We need you, Sophia. We had our mother of pearl stolen from us, our most sacred gem. Without it, our queen is crying and sad every day. Do you think you can cross the island and bring it back from Deadly the Dragon?" My jaw dropped open with surprise. I wasn't sure I could do what they were asking. So then there's our problem. The mother of pearl is missing, stolen by Deadly the Dragon. So part 4 is when the rising action is happening. After giving it a moment's thought, I realized that the reason I was probably sent to this land was because they needed me. As silly as it sounded, I was probably the chosen one like you see in the movies, and answered that yes, I would help them. The merfolk all cheered as I swam to the water's edge and started walking up the beach. I knew that dragons usually lived in caves, and that meant I should probably head toward the mountain in the dead center of the island. I was heading into the jungle when I heard a hissing noise. Snakes. I hated snakes. When I looked up, there was the biggest, fattest, longest snake I'd ever seen staring at me right in the eyes. I froze and looked right back at him, feeling like I was becoming hypnotized. I started imagining and feeling like I was being snug in my bed, when all of a sudden I realized I was being hypnotized. I forced my eyes away from the snake's eyes and realized that it had started to wrap itself around me. I'm going to go ahead and just go through this quickly because we've read this a million times. Then she escapes. She's running through the jungle and she gets to this watery swamp, and she has to make big leaves and tie them together with jungle vines. So there was the hypnotizing snake. There's the swamp with the turtles and the boat that she has to make to get across. And then the last thing that happens is she has to get up the cliff with the mountain goat. So there's a cliff with a mountain goat that she captures and tames, and she's able to get the mountain goat to bring her all the way up to the top of the mountain. All right, so part 5 is the part where she gets the gem from the dragon. So she remembered reading somewhere that dragons like to sleep on top of their treasure, and so then she hatches a plan using everything she knows. She goes and finds one of those snakes. She gets some of the vines. She ties them around her waist, and she goes and puts the snake into the cave, and the cave goes and hypnotizes the dragon for long enough for her to sneak in and get the stone from Deadly the Dragon. So I said she got the stone from Deadly by being clever, because she used what she knew about the island. And then after that, part 6 was the part where, it takes me a minute to find everything. She untied the vine from around her waist, and then she has to get back through the jungle so she doesn't look at the snakes. She didn't have to use the mountain goat because she used the vines to jump away from Deadly the Dragon. And then she looks back and makes sure that when she gets back to the seashore, she looks back at the cave to make sure that Deadly is not following her. So far we've done all of those things, and now the last part is our conclusion. So I made sure the mother of pearl, the last thing that happened was she was back at the shore's edge and she saw the mermaids swimming around. I made sure the mother of pearl was secured in my pocket, then dove into the crystal water. My mermaid tail formed quickly, and before I knew it, I was flashing through the water and was in the middle of a mermaid crowd. They gathered around me, and I held the mother of pearl up above my head to the cheers of gratitude from the merpeople who were gathered around me. The same mermaid girl swam toward me. "Now let's take this to our mermaid queen. It will be such a pleasure to soothe her sadness with this good news," she said. She dove under the water, swimming deeper and deeper with me right behind her. Behind a curtain of grass, there was a hidden cave that we entered. At first, the cave was dim, but as we swam further into it, I started to realize that the walls we swam by were encrusted with gems and shiny jewels. The deeper in we went, the walls became more elaborate until we reached a huge cavern. At the end of the cavern was an ornate throne with the most beautiful mermaid I could ever imagine. Her hair was long, dark, and swirling around her. Her mermaid tail shone with gold, but her face was so sad. I immediately knew that this was the mermaid queen and swam to her. As I pulled out the mother of pearl, her face changed from utter despair to pure joy. She took the mother of pearl from me and began flipping and flitting, swirling and dancing with joy around the cave. She came back and hugged me, looking into my eyes with gratitude. Other merpeople began to fill the cave, all joining in with the joyful flipping and celebrating the return of their precious gem. I was so happy to have helped. I began looking around the cave some more and noticed a corner with beautiful seagrass growing so tall in different colors of green. I swam toward it, not realizing I was actually being drawn to it. So now I'm getting closer to where I'm going to get pulled back. I solved my problem. I gave back the mother of pearl, and now I'm swimming towards that grass. I swam toward it, not realizing I was actually being drawn into it. I started swimming through it, loving the feel of grasses tickling my sides, when suddenly I felt a familiar feeling of being pulled and sucked. I was being pulled back through the portal. Before I knew it, I found myself in human form next to my TV, right back where this adventure began. If I wasn't soaking wet, I would have thought the whole thing was just a dream. What an adventure I did have. So my conclusion, I gave the mother of pearl to the queen and got sucked right back into my original world. And my story is over. So today, your job is to finish up your story by figuring out how you're going to get back to the world that you started in. I am so proud of you, friends. You have worked so hard on this for the last 7 weeks, and you have an incredible story. I'm encouraging you still to type this up, publish it, illustrate it, and give it to somebody like maybe your dad for Father's Day, or whoever you live with around Father's Day, and they will have the coolest gift that I could ever imagine getting from one of my kids. So, or just illustrate it and keep it for yourself because you're really proud of this job that you did. Put it on your library shelf and keep it forever as an amazing story that you wrote in 2nd grade. Bravo, my friends. Bravo. I tip my hat to you. I love you all. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Go outside and play in the sunshine, and I'll see you again soon.